Darren Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey, this is Meteorologist Darren Tuttle with you. It is Sunday night, about almost 9:30. Actually got on time tonight, a few minutes early, speaking of which, just probably because I had all my stuff loaded up from earlier this afternoon. I was watching the Cowboy game and seeing a big turd that was, and decided to go ahead and cut my losses and work on the forecast. So if you had a chance to read my blog, thank you. Make sure you like and share that the video as you're watching it as well, and pass around both. Pass around the blog and the video to your friends and family. Let them know what's coming our way or what's happening and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad you guys are here. We're going to talk about, recap a little bit of what happened today. Also talk about what's going to happen the next couple of days. And then I'm already eyeing our next potential troublemaker. Right now it's in the potential possible category because the setup is looking like it might be there. We're 7 days away. So unfortunately the outcome isn't exactly ideal. So we'll take a look at that and see how that's looking. Michael's in the house. I'm telling you, brother. I think they did forget they're supposed to have a game today. You're welcome, Sharon. Thanks, you guys, for checking on YouTube tonight. Jim from Mustang's always in the house. I think our first was Paul. He was checking in from McIntosh County. Tecumseh's in here. Moore, Watonga. Mustang's in the house. Newcastle, Blanchard. Who else we got? We got more from Mustang and Moore again. So good to see you guys where you're checking in from different places. Let's see. I think we've just about tap dancing up to get some more people in here. Angie, thank you for the stars on Facebook, and obviously more. I see you there, Sarah, and I see you, Karen. So we're going to post the link. Now, this doesn't always work from what I'm told. Now, that might be because you're not doing it from your phone or you don't have Messenger installed. Or maybe sometimes Facebook's a punk, I don't know. But if you click that link, you can get access to my live broadcast channel where I notify when I go live, and that way you won't miss a broadcast. You don't have to depend upon the algorithms anymore to notify you. I'll do it for you. So click on that if you want to join the community. It's about 5,000 of us in the chat room so far. So you can be 5,001 and 2. All right, let's see. So I think all that's done. I've gotten the housekeeping figured out. So now let's move on to the next thing here. All right. So it's cold. I've got 4.6 degrees if you want to get technical. And if you can see off in the distance, I've got a mixture of some clouds and some clear skies. Now, clouds because we already have our next system making its way into the state here for tonight. We're going to see if that's going to generate you some more snow. Speaking of snow, let's take a look at it. Temperatures on here in the single digits across the state, teens to the south and west, and also single digits to the east. I'm going to put this in motion. You'll watch how these numbers will kind of bounce around a little bit. You also see how the snow has continued to move off to the east, is now pressing on into Arkansas. So that round is gone. It's completely out of the state. In its wake, you can see temperatures are into the goose egg territory in Tulsa, and already negative numbers up here in Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma. There's Bartlesville at -8 degrees. Woo, that's brutal. Now, we did get some pretty decent snowfall amounts like we talked about. Let me see if I can back this up and show some of them. The problem is this is on a timeline and they disappear every hour. On the hour I lose more of them. So there's a few of them here. There was one in Woodward. They had 1.5 inches. Here in Oklahoma City, I think the most I saw was 1 inch of snow. Otherwise, just basically right around there. But you didn't have to go too far. Perkins had about 1 inch. Let's see. Stillwater had 2 inches. Up here in north of Cleveland, there's 2 inches. West side of Tulsa, 2 inches. Somewhere in Tulsa, I think had 3. Otherwise 1 to 2. Looks like many little areas across the Tulsa metropolitan region. If you head out toward Inola, another inch there. Down south to Okmulgee, 1.5 inches. Outer toward Fort Smith, there's 1 inch there. Let's see, up here in Miami, 2 inches. Grove looks like almost about another 1.5 inches. So a lot of 1 to 3 inch reports. Here's 3.5 down here in southwestern Missouri and in northwest Arkansas. I think they had some more. Let me see if I put this in there. We go. Here's some more out here. If I can pull them up, there's 3 inches, 3.5 inches. So this kind of jived with the forecast. There's 4 inches. So the idea was sweet spot. You had to kind of travel to this part of the state into Arkansas to get the higher snowfall amounts than you did elsewhere. So that's kind of the way this one panned out. If you want to look at another view of this, Weather Service kind of got in some of the reports they got in today to outline where they saw the 1 to 2 inch line right around here. And then, of course, it was a little heavier out in this region of Tulsa. We just showed you several of those reports, anywhere from 1 to 3 as you went farther to the east. So that was a look at today's event. You can look at it. Let's see. I'll tell you what, we'll do this right here. First off, let me show you temperatures out there now. Like I said, they're up into the negative numbers in northeast Oklahoma. About 0 degrees, though, near Guthrie. Hanging on to 1 degree here in Oklahoma County. It's still single digits in red elsewhere, and a northeast wind. Here's another view of those. I like to show you different types of maps depending on how savvy you are in the weather world. But those negative numbers, there's your actual air temperatures. But you can still see it is a cold evening. The winds have calmed down in some cases, so wind chill values aren't as bad as they were earlier in the day. We peaked about minus 30, I think, but it feels like it's in the minus teens here in southwest Oklahoma. So here's that big snow band that moved from west to east. You can see the darker or the lighter greens indicate the brighter spots, so the heavier amounts of snow that did go through all across. It was a quick moving system. I think probably 6 hours from west to east for the most part. And then it's moved on out. We're waiting for some new, there we go, right there. You see that last little frame? Let me get that back here to the very end and I'll show you. See that? That's the beginning stages of our next round of light snow that'll move through tonight. Now the advisories, there's nothing here across the state just except for the far southeast for a winter weather advisory. The pink areas for winter storm warning still in Arkansas, where they got a lot more snow and some inclement travel problems than we did here in Oklahoma. If you do look at the next system, which is right here, coming in across the border between New Mexico and Colorado. Out of ahead of it, getting a little bit of lift enhancement. You see a little development in the cloud cover. And then also down here, you see these clouds getting a little thicker and expanding. And even down here into North Texas, you see that. So we're getting a lot more lift developing with this system. I think the models are actually underplaying the lift a little bit. In other words, they're not nearly as excited about this on the precipitation side as I am. So I think we get probably another dusting of snow overnight as a result. If you do look at the precipitation type, we were in the blue for Oklahoma, which means all snow. If you are in the orange shading, that's for sleet. Red is for freezing rain. And there will be a kind of a sleet, freezing rain mixture kind of halfway in between this little orange band. But here is a look at the system. This little guy right here, it's not much. I like those deeper troughs with those big bright colors and purples on the map like this over here, for example. But we don't have that. We've got this to work with, which isn't bad. Like I said, it's kind of a little stronger, I think, than what the models originally had intended. So that's a pretty decent lift. Just problem is we don't have a whole lot of moisture to work with. But that'll zip on out of here. And then here's that secondary one that'll come in Monday evening and Monday night. This guy right here is kind of passing mostly to our north. But enough of that energy will swing through, and we'll squeeze out a little bit more in the way of flurry activity, I think, and that's about it. All right, so let's take a look here at the NAM model for the moisture. I'm looking at about 700 millibars, a few thousand feet off the ground. So I want to track where I think the heaviest snow potential will fall. So look at this dark precipitation, or this dark ring here of blue. That's relative humidity close to 100%. So you're going to look for this little spot to kind of transverse from west to east, pretty much right along the I-40 corridor, and maybe just a hair to the north, over, say, from the midnight hour to about 6 a.m., moving through most of the state. So about another 6-hour moving system. A little bit better moisture up here to the north and northeast, kind of in the same spots these last ones have. So, you guys, why don't y'all share the wealth, man? give this rest of the body of Oklahoma some snow. But anyway, so that's where most of the moisture is going to go. Therefore, that should be the track of the heavier snow bands. And then here's that little extra band coming in for Monday evening into the midnight hour. This one may kind of pass into the western parts of Oklahoma down south. So you guys might actually get a very light dusting of snow with that. Otherwise, just some flurries with that one, but out of here by Tuesday morning. So that's kind of how that follow-up system will be. Here's a look at the models that tried to produce precipitation out of this, and they don't do a very good job. But you can see down here from the midnight hour onward, this is where we're going to start to see the sleet break out here in the purple shading. Right here is that little batch of snow that's starting to develop. You see how that zips on through the state here at 3 o'clock in the morning. Down here south from Dallas-Fort Worth, south and east, is where that sleet line will be. Then that continues down to the coastline, a little bit of light freezing rain and freezing drizzle. Otherwise, more snow for Arkansas and Tennessee, moves on off to the east. And then there's that little batch of some light snow that tries to come on in as we head from Monday evening to Monday night. There you can see it in the model data, kind of vanishes. So again, they're not very excited about either one of these systems, and that's understandable. We don't have a ton of moisture to work with. So here's that closer view for Oklahoma. So there's that snow that breaks out, and it kind of tracks along that area of enhanced moisture that I showed you. So pretty much right along and north of I-40. Maybe some higher bands moving into northeastern Oklahoma by the time you head to 7 and 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that moves out of here. So by 10 a.m. tomorrow, that system's long gone. Here's some of those other flurries that try to come in Monday afternoon and evening across Kansas and in northern Oklahoma. So by Monday evening, there's that little light band of snow that moves through, but it kind of falls apart. Again, really dry conditions by the time that system moves in. Okay, so what about snowfall amounts? Now, this is the funny part. This is where the NAM and I have to part ways. We're only parting ways because of how it has it structured. For example, there's 3 inches of snow out here in northwest Oklahoma, a very thin band, like literally a 40-mile wide band from running from west to east. It's got it running pretty much right along 412 out of Tulsa westbound. Now remember, that moisture was a little more south toward I-40. So if anything, I'd shove this band a little bit more to the south, but I wouldn't put so much snow on it. Like I said, I still like maybe an inch of snow overnight in addition to what you have out there now. As long as you're in the heavy track of this, by the way, outskirts of that track, flurries to a light dusting. And then, of course, in northeast Oklahoma, we saw better opportunity. So if I had to adjust this map on potential, we're looking at something like this for probably the area that's going to get the best precipitation coverage overnight. Okay, so now let's shift gears here down into Texas. I want to give you guys some love. The good news is for Dallas-Fort Worth is your atmosphere is just really dry. So the models just don't have all saturation. So this little batch here, that's mid-level dry air, which is going to chew up some of your precipitation ability, but you do have a lower saturated air. So you're going to get a little bit of patchy, freezing drizzle, very light, a little bit of light sleet. You might see some snowflakes mixed in, so it's a very light wintry mix down here in the DFW region. Most of it, though, the heavier activity through 4 o'clock in the morning is just to your south and to your east. So again, traveling for Monday morning may be problematic from Dallas down south, I-35 and I-45, and eastbound on I-20 to Shreveport. So in Texas, kind of a little bit of a winter mix mess for Monday. Now by Monday afternoon, it's out of here and it's moved on away, and things kind of quiet down. Amounts down there, if you're looking at just kind of a light freezing rain, light freezing drizzle, and maybe a little bit of sleet mixed in, that's kind of in this zone here. Otherwise, slick spots, bridges, overpasses, that kind of deal. The European has a little bit of heavier amounts when it talks about the sleet accumulation in here. But if you notice, it kind of pushed it south to Dallas. I think that's a little bit of a mistake. I still think you guys are in it, but barely. I mean, by the skin of your teeth. All right, so let's take a look at temperatures, and we'll see how that's going to play out for the next couple of days. We're going to thaw out any. And I do need to thaw because my pipes froze. I am not happy. And you're like, well, why didn't you protect them? I said, I did. That's the lamest thing. I've been in this house for almost 20 years. Never happened. I've dripped the pipes. I had dripped the water. I had the cabinets open, all of them. And I woke up in the morning, I'm like, uh-oh, ain't got no water. And it wasn't like frozen out of the pipe. There was no more water at all. So I went to go check, and the inlet where it comes into the house, that pipe is warm. Warm considering it's not like ice cold or anything. So that means that it froze before it got into my house. So somewhere underground or by the curb, something didn't go well, I guess. But so I gotta wait for us to thaw. So we gonna thaw any? Let's take a look because I need to thaw. Let's go to 6 a.m. So we're looking at about a goose egg, maybe in some little patchy areas below zero. These little purple readings kind of indicate that might be the case. The cloud cover that comes in tonight in the snow will actually help to keep temperatures from bottoming out. So it actually may help to warm it a degree, but otherwise we're going to be holding right around zero for most of us by tomorrow morning. In the afternoon, we're going to rebound you into the teens, many areas of the state. Maybe still single digits up here to Bartlesville and Muskogee, kind of a deal, northeast Oklahoma. All right, well, that's not a whole lot of improvement, is it? I'm kind of over that, aren't you? Let's go to Monday afternoon. We're going to be, anything better? Hold on, I went right past Monday afternoon. Hold on. Yeah, so Monday, Yeah, so we go from the teens. That's right. We're going to cool it to Tuesday. That's where I'm going. We head into the 6 o'clock hour. By the way, look at this little band right here. I want you to focus. See this little kind of a white color? Watch how it goes from north to south. Watch. There it is. And it comes down. That's reminiscent of the cloud cover with that little band of light snow that moves through Sunday night and Monday night into Tuesday morning. And that will also have a tendency to prevent temperatures from bottoming out Tuesday. If for whatever reason this is a little faster and it's out of the state and we have clear skies and light winds, we're going to see a lot more negative numbers come in for our Tuesday morning. So that would be the saving grace. But by afternoon on Tuesday, we're going to warm you back into the teens and even some 20s maybe here in southwest Oklahoma. So it will be another cold day, but it will help for any of those pipes that are probably frozen. Anything will help at this point to get us out of the teens. That's where the magic trouble happens. Now we are going to have a little bit of wind as we head into the overnight period, just over eastern half of Oklahoma into the daybreak hours, gusts up around 20. Those winds will expand a little bit for Monday, so gusts up around 20 to 25, maybe even 30 miles per hour Monday evening across the southern half of the state and even parts of the north. And then by Tuesday morning, you see how they start to die down. There's that little thin line. You see that right there that moves through? And then those winds die down pretty quickly. All right, so what does that mean for wind chill values? Well, negative numbers again. So it'll feel like 12 degrees below zero in Oklahoma City, 14 in Bartlesville. As we head into the afternoon with those temperatures warming up a hair, our wind chills will recover a hair, basically up to around zero again. And then as we head into Tuesday morning, give me some good news, right? Tuesday morning wind chill values again below zero. And there you go in the afternoon. Wind chill values are a balmy 19 degrees in Elk City and 21 in Lawton. So there's your improvement over time. So speaking of improvement over time, like I mentioned in my blog, I do not believe we're going to hit 44 or 43 Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe if we're lucky about 35 here in Oklahoma City on Wednesday, and then maybe upper 30s, so it's not a whole big difference, but on Thursday, because there's a cold front coming in for this little time frame for Wednesday night, and then we've got another front that comes in Thursday night. So this should prevent a huge rebound in temperatures during the middle part of our week, and then this number will probably be closer to like 25 for Friday. It's going to be pretty cold on Friday, and then we'll be still about maybe about 32 on Saturday if we're lucky, if we get plenty of sunshine. Depends on how strong this Arctic air mass is going to be. Keep in mind, models will always underestimate the strength of the Arctic air, so therefore these latter temperatures will suffer just like this whole last period they did terrible. And then this is where the trouble starts. And for those of you folks that want to stick around, we're going to talk about the threat for potential ice on Sunday. So by the way, for travelers down here across eastern Texas, Louisiana, just a minor impact from the light icing that they're expected. So that's at least some good news, probably just because the amounts are very light. So it kind of bridges and overpasses type deal. It does kind of back in to the Dallas-Fort Worth area barely in the hill country. So like I said, you guys are on the far northern fringe and western fringe of that, which is good news. Now, if you are wondering about traveling and you do have to head out, you don't live in Oklahoma but surrounding states, you can always take a look at my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. Go to the weather data tab, hit multi-state road conditions, and in here you can look at the state of all the surrounding states, how the traffic's moving, how the roads look, what do the snowplows see, all that kind of stuff. And you can get to that also on my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's available on Apple and Google Play, and it is free of charge. Okay, so now let's shift gears, and now let's talk about Sunday. What is going to happen on our Sunday? All right, now I'll see if any of the new data comes in tonight while we're discussing this. But we're going to stick with kind of a mixture blend right now. We're using the Canadian and the European to kind of tell the story. All right, so I'm looking at temperatures right now. Of course, you see those lovely minus 30s and 40s up here in Canada and zipping on into the Rockies. But let's put this in emotions. This is, of course, today. And we're going to watch how our temperatures will rebound down here for a little bit. But then we're also going to watch another round that comes up here, and it comes down south. Look at that. Boom. Right back down in Oklahoma. So the problem is we get a little bit of a mini break, but then it's right back in the deep freeze. So let me zip this through. So here's Thursday night. There's that big push. See that? Here's Friday morning. 18 degrees, for example. There's 20 degrees at noontime and 19 again in the evening. So we may not even hit 25 on Friday. That may be a pipe dream. We'll see. Depends on how cold it is. Right now, that's what the models are estimating it to be. Saturday afternoon, it's got us in the lower 20s. So again, a very cold Friday and Saturday. And then as we head into Sunday in the morning, it's got us into the low 20s. And by afternoon, we shall see what happens if we recover. And we're going to take a close-up view of that here in a minute. So what happens is at the time we're having that cold air come in, let's take a look at the jet stream pattern and how this will manifest itself. So we've got, let's refresh this. So this little trough action will zip through Monday night into Tuesday. That'll put us in this ridge, this northwest flow aloft, and that's what's going to drive in the next cold air mass. So then, after that cold air zips on through toward the end of the week, then we have this new system that comes in out here to the west. And then that sets the stage. Oh, get off of there. That then sets the stage for this guy right here to zip on through. So I'll put it right back where we get this guy that comes in. All right, so where are we on? There's Saturday. All right, and let's go to Sunday morning. All right, so what we have here is kind of in this little of a southwest flow aloft from the jet stream. That taps into the Pacific jet, and it's going to bring in some moisture into the little storm systems. And it already has like a little bitty trough here. Maybe there's one here, a little disturbance here, a little disturbance here, then some back here. So we have these little waves to move through. And these are all like enough to generate light to moderate precipitation. But there's a gravy train of them. So typically, if you get colder that comes in with a nice ridge first, replaced by this trough that comes in underneath the ridge, then that usually spells trouble when we're talking about ice potential. So this is also something you have to watch for, and that's for moisture. So where is our moisture? Well, I'll play this. This is what we call a precipitable water. And where you see it's brown, it's obviously very dry. Once we get into a little green on the map, that's going to indicate the moisture returning. So as I animate this, watch how the moisture is confined down here across Texas and the Gulf Coast. And then as we go into time for later this week, it tries to come northward to get shut back by that front that we talked about on Thursday and Friday. And then boom, resurges right there. So let's do this right here. Right, here's, let's go Sunday morning. And there's Sunday midday. And there's Sunday evening. So a big push right up I-35 to bring this moisture into Oklahoma. So that moistens up the atmosphere. So you have the upper level system out to the west. We got the lower mid-level moisture that comes in from the south. And then those two combine to generate precipitation. Now, normally that wouldn't be a big deal. We'd be happy about it, right? Because everybody likes little rain, especially during the wintertime. But when you get the problem that we're going to have, which is temperatures pretty close to that freezing point, that's when things become problematic. So let's see what that looks like. So for example, if we were to pick the Canadian output for Sunday evening, and this is, since we're 7 days away, the timing can easily change. It can change by 6 hours, it can change by 12 hours, either direction. But for right now, we call it Sunday, late afternoon and evening. This thing blossoms up. So all this pink area is freezing rain. So it puts out some heavy freezing rain from Dallas-Fort Worth on into central and eastern Oklahoma during the overnight period from Sunday night into Monday morning. And then that expands into Monday midday. But then look what happens here. See how all of a sudden changes over to green, except for this little spot right here. So this is what can happen in this situation. And there's still, it's fighting. So the western parts of the state, where dew points are probably lower, it tries to wet bulb down to the freezing parts. The model's going to have some tough time whether or not they keep it all freezing rain or they kind of go back and forth depending on the location. And this is by Tuesday morning. Then after that, it looks like it's all liquid and it's all moved out of here. Anyway, so what can happen here is you can have temperatures across Oklahoma that are freezing. You know, they're basically at 32 degrees or less. And you can have the dew point value be into the 20s. So that temperature of 32, for example, I'm just calling that as a number, and say you have a dew point value of 25. When it rains, they're going to meet in the middle, so probably around 28, maybe 29 degrees. You can get plenty of ice at 29 degrees. So that would be basically an ice event, and that would cause problems on the roadways, bridges, overpasses, travel, a nightmare, and if it gets heavy enough, some power outages. Now, just like in the snow situation, when I show you those maps, when we're looking at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days away, all we're looking at is trends. We're looking at trends and what the model says potential is there. It's not an actual forecast of hardcore numbers because you know those will change. Well, in this case, we're going to look at the freezing rain amounts. Same idea. We're not going to say these numbers are gospel. What we're going to look for is a trend. And the trend just started. It's actually started, I think, last night's date I saw it. I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. But I saw it, I said, if it's going to continue today, well, I'm going to have to talk about it, right? Well, here we are, 24 hours later, it's still there. So, like, for example, these amounts here up around 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice. Now, that obviously would be a serious ice storm. That's power outages. That's a mess. Now, remember, this is for Sunday into Monday. Now, this is just one model. It's just the Canadian model, which I will say does fairly good in these setups. The European model also does fairly good on these setups. The difference between the Canadian and the European are temperatures. And I'm going to show you that here real quick, just so you can see why this forecast this far out is next to impossible. So what you do is you look at pattern recognition and you look at the setup, because that's all you can do. Because remember, the models have no idea how cold that Arctic air mass is really going to be. They didn't even have a clue on this one. They blew it big time. I mean, horrible. I mean, you talk about a bust. It was a massive bust. All right, so let's go here. Let me pick the latest trends. All right, so for example, the Canadian model had 31 degrees here in Oklahoma City, midday Sunday. The European model had 34. All right, the American, 36. Icon model has 27. If you blend the models together, it's like 37. So if you look, most of the models say the Arctic air moderates before that precipitation starts. And I would love to believe them, but I have a problem with that. If you look at the dew point values at this time, because remember, we're going to wet bulb down. So even if temperatures are above freezing, once it starts to rain, those temperatures will fall to the dew point. The dew point will come up, temperature will go down. Well, if your dew point starting at 13, and the European had us, at 34? I'm sorry, that's upper 20s, mid-20s. That's freezing rain event. The Canadian model had a dew point around 10. The American model had 27. Big change there. Icon model had 16. A blend of models has about 19. So anyway you slice it, if you're to group all the models together an average amount, when you get precipitation on top of this profile, you're going to get an ice storm. So that's what I'm looking at. That's the question, the $1 million question. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. So over the coming days, what I'm going to look for, obviously, is model agreement, obviously, because I want to make sure that the confidence builds. Second, I want trend. I want to see if this trend continues or if it's just an outlier. And then we'll just watch to see how strong the high pressure is that comes in from Canada and the numbers. And those really won't be known probably about Thursday for real. And then we'll see, of course, how cold it's here on Friday. What I can tell you as a rule of thumb, when you talk about Arctic air that comes in to this state, a lot of the times models will erode it too fast. Like they treat it like a Pacific cold front. A Pacific cold front, the air is not as dense, it's not as shallow. So it erodes and it mixes out real easy. I'll say real easy, relatively easy. Arctic air is very shallow, very dense, and it does not mix out. And you have to slowly erode it. You got to kind of chomp on it from the outside. So the inside's like the cold, hardest bulb, and the outside's like the onions. You got to peel the onions on the outside, little by little by little. And you just chomp away, and you eventually will get that air mass to erode. So that's kind of how you get rid of Arctic air. So it's very hard to do so. So it takes a long time to moderate those temperatures to heat up. So that's what I'm concerned about for Sunday after we get a nice big blast in here for Friday. So the trajectory makes a big difference. Earlier, let's see, a couple days ago, it kind of had us more of a backdoor configuration for that Arctic front. The model runs today, and yesterday had it more of a direct hit again coming off the Rockies due south. That would be our stronger push, kind of like this last one was. I do not believe it'll be as strong as it was this last time around, but it's going to be strong enough to maybe cause some problems. So that's what I've got for you. That's your whole forecast that takes you through all of this week. All these details are in my blog that I posted earlier this evening. Please feel free to share that with your friends. That way everybody knows and no one's caught off guard. Now, is there a situation where the ice storm doesn't happen? Sure. Today's Sunday. I'm talking about a system on Sunday. I'm good, but I may not be that good. We'll see. But what I can tell you is you got to watch that kind of pattern. And earlier today, I threw some shade at the City of Oklahoma City Utilities because they had the maintenance on their website. Of all days, they're going to take their website down during an Arctic deal where you've got pipes bursting and people's lines freezing. that want to check on the outages in their area, because I have a map for that. You can see if there's a water main outage. Of course, you can't pull that up, and then you have to call the number. Well, that's great, but if they only have like 5 people answering the phones, you got 2,000-3,000 people calling. Good luck with that. So I thought it was a bad idea, so I threw a little shade their way, and I don't know. I probably would have rescheduled that whole website deal for another day, but that's just me. I don't make the rules. I just forecast the weather. And if you guys didn't know that this weather was coming, hire a better meteorologist. I'm available. Just let you know. All right, so enough of that goofiness. You guys, again, get my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free. Apple, Google Play. You can track the weather on it. You can track the road conditions, all that kind of stuff. Jody's always putting in the comments section where you can pick up AT's Weather hoodie or t-shirt. I've got the 3/4 inch sleeve on tonight, for example. Let's see what else. I will be doing lives again this week. Typically, I do them around lunchtime, and then in the evening hours. Evening is right around 9:30. Lunchtime usually right about 12 o'clock, a little before. And let's see, I think that's all the highlights I want to say. If there was something else, I can't forget. I can't remember. So that's probably it. But thanks you guys for tuning in on YouTube tonight. I see your comments in there, chatting. So I appreciate you guys leaving where you're from. Let's see. I think I've answered any potential questions. So for you folks that are really late and you're like, well, we getting snow tonight? Answer is yes. Yeah, there's David. David Cameron says, recap. I missed the whole thing. So yeah, so there's a system coming overhead right now, and it's starting to produce some very light snow out across western Oklahoma and the Panhandle. Right now, I could see maybe up to an inch, another dusting of that overnight, kind of along the I-40 corridor and points to the north. Probably the spot getting hit the best would be northeast Oklahoma, out east toward Little Rock, kind of a deal. Kind of like what it was last time. But, you know, for whatever reason, I seem to be the track of these things. One of these days, you know, we're going to get everybody, if, of course, you like snow. If you don't like snow, then you probably don't want all this stuff. But let me see. I'm just going to check real quick while I was talking to you the other model data, see if anything else came in that goes out far enough to do me any good. So hold that thought. So the Canadian's out 66, and I'll pull this up just for giggles. And then we'll see if they do anything different with the upper system where the snow mounts. So the Canadian also has a little bit stronger of a system tonight. And there's that wave there. Oop. Yeah. Okay. And then the GFS. Same look, almost exact same look as last night's or today's deal. I prefer it to be a little better because I'm a snow lover, but it is what it is. All right, so GFS doesn't quite go out far enough yet. It's got Friday on here, but doesn't have Saturday or Sunday. So here in a couple minutes, it'll do it if you just want to hang tight. It'll update here in a minute. And then we can look at the snowfall amounts from the Canadian and see if it did anything that's of any significance. Oh yeah, look what it did. It's so funny. These guys, they actually had no snow for overnight. I mean, the amounts, there was nothing. I only could find one model actually had something. I showed it to you earlier, and I told you what I liked or didn't like about it. But this particular case, even this one's trying to bring out these little tracks of snow. So where it's half an inch to an inch. So there you go. So model agrees with me. They just came out. I beat the model by 10 minutes. Let's see. So that was, let me look at the American, and we'll see if that one did anything different on its output. So the American didn't do anything overnight. It basically says it's not going to snow. Let me see here. Hold on a second. Is this right? Yeah? Yeah, it says no snow tonight. Okay, well. Oh, they did. It did that right there. They did that one and this guy down here. That's pathetic. Man, sometimes the models have a tough time with snow. If you think we had a tough time with snow, they have a tough time with snow. Doesn't even know it's snowing half the time. That's bad. Let's see. And then we got this one here. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I will show you. What will I show you? If you are late, like really late, you missed everything. Really, wait, while we're waiting for this little deal to come in, I'll go to this other map. Okay. So I'll come back to this here in a second. So bottom line is, if you're late and you missed everything, we have some probably hope. I don't know. You have to check the website. I haven't clicked on them yet today. I usually click on them, but system's coming overhead tonight. It's a quick mover, probably about 6 hours, going from west to east across the state, producing anywhere from a dusting to maybe another inch of snow. So when you wake up in the morning, don't be surprised to see some more snow here in Oklahoma City, for example. The snowfall today ranged anywhere from a dusting, kind of in a line from northwest, southeast, over central Oklahoma, so it included the metro, up to an inch, and then went up to quickly to 2 inches by the time it's Stillwater, and just east and east central Oklahoma, and then up to 3 inches by the time you went from that 2 to 3 inch range to the border of Arkansas, just east of Tulsa into Missouri and Arkansas, where they got 4 inches, I think, in northwest Arkansas. So that was a breakdown of the snow. So I'd like to see a little bit more snow. I didn't get enough as I'd like here in Oklahoma City. It was a little less than I thought it would be. I thought we'd get at least an inch. I don't know. Somebody said they got an inch on the reports. I didn't get an inch at my house. It was probably like 3/4 or something if you want to get technical, but it's close enough. Enough to coat the roads, of course. Anyway, so that system's gone. This new one's coming right now, and then that's out of here by daybreak, hanging on to eastern Oklahoma. Some flurries or something the next night, Monday night, early Tuesday morning, kind of across the state. Most of it may be confined across western and southwestern Oklahoma. Dusting at most, but otherwise I think it's just going to be flurries, pretty dry. And then it's cold. We rebound to finally get into the 30s across the state for Wednesday and Thursday, but we have kind of a cold front that comes in to prevent anything warmer. And then an Arctic blast hits us Thursday night for Friday. So cold again Friday in the teens, probably some low 20s. And then we'll try to rebound a little bit on Saturday, probably still be into the low 20s, mid 20s. Depends on how cold it starts in the day, in the morning. And then clouds roll in pretty quickly on Sunday, and it caps the warm up. Precipitation develops. And if we haven't eroded that Arctic air, we have ice to deal with for probably late Sunday into Monday. And then we'll see if that air mass will moderate, because sometimes if it rains too much and you have too much warm air aloft, it will transport that warmer air through that Arctic air mass and basically moderate it from top down. It'll chew it up, and then eventually the surface temperatures will climb degree by degree, hour by hour, and whatever ice that you did have would then melt as temperatures warm slightly above freezing. So it ends up being a very cold rain versus a freezing rain. So that's what we can hope for if the situation turns out does manifest itself. We'll know that in the coming days, but that's what I'll be watching for. But anyway, that would be the best outcome. It's a short-lived window of ice, and then we kind of moderate that Arctic air and we warm things up. If that doesn't happen, it starts out too cold, too dense. It is what it is, and then we got to deal with that. Either way, ice is never good here in Oklahoma for anybody. Nobody wants no ice. So that was like the short recap of this system and that system and how temperatures ought to behave over the coming days. And then Dallas, I know you guys were expecting a little bit of a light winter mix. It's still going to continue, mostly sleet, a little bit of the other, but it's very, very light. So it's probably going to be enough to bridges and overpasses and maybe some slick spots. I will show you this while I'm waiting a couple more minutes from the GFS model to come in. It just now hit the end of Friday. I didn't show this earlier because there was just always so much to do, so I just I dropped stuff. But just give you an example of what can happen with that system tonight. So let's go to a little meteorology lesson 101. All right, this is your snow growth layer. This is our cross section of the atmosphere. All right, you're just gonna cut the atmosphere in half like this. It's like you're gonna cut my face in half. All right, I'm gonna cut my face in half, and then we're gonna look at the mouth and the nose and the eyes as we go up. That's a really weird way of doing that. Anyway, so that's the snow growth layer, the layer in which the snow forms. The red circles that you see here is called omega, which is lift in the atmosphere. And there's a bunch of them. The more circles you have, the more lift you got. The stronger the lift it is. Now, I just picked Tulsa, for example, for tonight. This is according to the NAM model. Now, if you notice, because we have, the final ingredient, which is this little green area, This is all moisture. All right. So you finally have a situation. We have moisture, snow growth layer, and omega all overlaid at once. When that happens, guess what you get? You get this stuff right here, which is a column of snow. In this particular case, it measures 2 inches of snow. All right, so there's your snow total. This little white line is the total, which correlates here to the scale, which is 2. So if the NAM was right, 100% right, knock on wood, for you guys in Tulsa, you get 2 inches of snow by daybreak tomorrow morning, right about by 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's an example of how that system can be feast or famine, because now I'm going to show you Oklahoma City. Same model, same idea. All right. Now, what do we have or not have? We have the moisture. See all the green? That's good. Okay. Snow growth layer over the moisture. We do between midnight and about 3 o'clock in the morning right here. But you know what we don't have? We don't have a bukus of those little red circles. We got one little one right here. One way up here doesn't snow good. So that's it. We don't have the juxtaposition of a good omega, in other words, lift in the atmosphere, to really help generate snowfall out of this. So according to the NAM, and that one point that I picked on the map, in this particular point in the atmosphere, we don't have enough to really generate some significant snowfall. It does have some light snowfall generation ability just because of the air mass, but down low like flurries. But as far as anything that would dump like an inch or two of snow, according to this, we don't have it. Tulsa does, we don't. Now, I don't want to get that specific. I still think that we have a shot at seeing maybe up to an inch here in Oklahoma City, because all the thing has to do is just drift 20 miles south and we're right back in it. So that's kind of deal where it's very difficult to forecast snow totals, just so you know. It's just one of many headaches. And the funny thing is no one's ever happy. It doesn't matter. I can give you all the reasons why it's so complicated. At the end of the day, if you don't get the 4 inches that you want, you're angry. It's the nature of the beast. All right, let me go here. So this is the American model now. We are to Friday night towards Saturday morning. So this is the trough axis coming in here. And you got your big ridge that pipes up over like this, that comes down like this. So this helps to drive in the cold air out of Canada. Now, if it's too much of this is another trick here of the jet stream pattern. If the jet stream does kind of more of this laminar flow where it's almost horizontal, then a lot of that cold air that comes in here will kind of move more to the southeast. We get a glancing blow. If, for whatever reason, you can get a really good ridge here and it's a sharp drop, and then like this, that's when you Katie bar the doors. We got the worst coming our way. So a lot of times we gotta get a mixture of the middle. We're somewhere in the middle of both of those outcomes. Is usually the way it works out. But anyway, so this is still a setup to get some cold air that comes in the U.S. And then what we're looking for is the upper level pattern to go on top of it to get us into this southwest flow to bring in the specific moisture. And this is a really nice broad trough axis too, so that's good. So now I'm going to see what it does with the temperatures. Now, this isn't to say that the GFS is even worth its weight in gold here. I just needed something to look at, so we're going to look at it just to see how it's going to compare with the Canadian, the euro that we looked at earlier. All right, so I wonder if this will show us. It will. Okay, so you have to visualize the jet stream pattern, that trough axis to the west. Now you see what happens when that trough axis to the west comes in that play. Remember that little dashed line of Drea? See as you go through time, see how it brings in that Pacific moisture. So that's kind of the start. And then if you look down here, see this little hump? That's moisture that's going to eventually work its way to the north. So when this pattern takes shape, it starts to pull in moisture back into Texas and eventually here in Oklahoma. This is looking about 700 millibars. I can get better moisture probably for the Gulf if I go to 850. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, there it is. All right, same idea. Watch the Gulf open up right here. See that? Boom. It just exploded. Now that moisture is raging, surging northward, past Waco and Austin, and this is by Saturday evening. All right, this is 850 millibar layer. This is pure clouds, just so you know. So that means in another 6 to 12 hours, it'll be in the northern parts of Texas by then and crossing into Oklahoma. So that means by Sunday morning, according to the GFS, we would have this moisture overhead and we'd be cloudy. You are not going to have a very good time to moderate and warm up in Arctic air mass when you have overcast skies. Now, this also sometimes indicates some drizzle that will accompany it. We'll take a look down here. So if we look at the forecast sounding for that point, this is that batch of moisture right here. See how these two lines touch, the red and green? That's temperature and dew point. So when you look at this, this is total saturation. So you will not see any sun. It blocks out the sun. It's all clouds. And if it gets deep enough and there's a little bit of lift in this layer, you can squeeze out a little bit of light freezing drizzle or very, very light freezing rain, for example, if it's in a temperature profile that's cold enough for that. When I clicked on this spot, what was the temperature? I didn't even look. Says 46 degrees. So down there in South Texas, it's pretty warm. Arctic air didn't invade this far south, and they're already on the recovery side, so they don't have to worry about that. It's what happens when it comes up here. So for example, here's Saturday evening. I'll click our forecast sounding just to show you what our profile looks like. And I'm going to show you what the wet bulb looks like. So this again is temperature. It says we're 32 degrees Saturday afternoon, all right, with our dew point of 14. Okay, that's a big difference. So what happens is when you suppose that we're going to get precipitation, the red and the green will come together at a point, what's called the wet bulb. So this little blue line represents the wet bulb, and you have to see how it looks. So in the forecast pattern, this wet bulb will stay to the left of this blue line right here. Let me see. Yeah, that blue line, that's the 0 degrees Celsius line. That's 32 degrees. It's the freezing line. So it has it just to the left of that line, which means that this profile would be cold enough for all snow. And if you look here at the bottom, these numbers would meet, and it would meet on the warm side. So it's got some meaning at like 28 degrees, it looks like. So that's still cold, right? That's obviously below freezing. Now, you see this little wind profile? You see how these winds turn from a south-southeast to a west-southwest? This right here is a tornado profile. If you want tornadoes, this is what you'd want to see. It's got a nice little photograph over here. So if we were in the springtime, I'd be warning you about potential for tornadic thunderstorms. But in this particular case, this year is actually a warm air advection pattern. So what that will do is cause the temperature right here in this layer to warm to the right of this line. And once it gets to the right of that line, and how far to the right of that line it goes, that means we transition over to sleet. And then if it gets thick enough and warm enough, we transition over to freezing rain. So that is what should be evolving, that we should be able to see happen in the model data. But it's going to be curious to see. All right, so let's go to, there's midnight. So there it is crossing over the Red River. All right, now we're going to go to the noontime. So here we go. So it's got 100% humidity at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. So there's our starting off already on the humid side. So here's what it's done. All right, we've got 30 degrees with a dew point 16, so our wet bulb still looks like maybe 27 there, but it already has a warm nose. Look at that, just in a 6-hour window, that warm nose went in ahead to the right of our freezing line. So that means we are getting a profile set up for freezing rain just in 6 hours time. All right, so now new one came in. Let's see, that's in the morning on Sunday. So we have this gravy train of moisture coming in, and we have that upper system out to the west. All right, so there's our big warm nose right here, and then there is our temperature profile still below freezing, and there is our saturation layer here. So that, my friends, is how you get the beginning stages of an ice storm. And if you're wondering how could I see that this far out, you just saw how you can see that this far out. Now, can anybody look at this and say what I'm saying? Sure can. Do they? I have no idea, but we just did it. It's not hard. So let's see. So there's 15Z. Stale pattern still holds. So again, the $1 million question is, this is we're starting out at 32 degrees or 30 degrees, whatever it was there in the morning. With it being cloudy all day, do we warm up? does that Arctic air erode? And that is a question on this Sunday I cannot answer for next Sunday. I would lean toward no, because historically they're very difficult to do, but we shall see. So I'm going to zoom in to that area, and we'll see what it's doing with the temperature profile down here. All right, so let's zip on into our window. Okay, so there's Saturday or Sunday morning. So you see what it did? So we'll back up here. So here is, let's go to Friday. So Friday afternoon, it's got us in the 20s. The GFS, by the way, is always too warm for, it never really gets Arctic air very well. So you always have to subtract 5 degrees at least. But anyway, let's just go with what it's going here. So Saturday morning, it's like got us in the teens. All right, so it's got the Arctic air basically all the way down here. All right, that's a pretty good infiltration. But it has this look to it. You see this little line right here? See how these numbers here run to the single digits? But you see how it's colder to the northeast? You see that little pattern, that configuration? That's that backdoor pattern I talked about, because the jet stream pattern was a little different, and because that, it allowed it more of a backdoor than a straight shot. That backdoor does allow the edge down here to erode rather easily. But we're not down here, though. We're in Oklahoma, so that's a big difference. We've got the geography to deal with. So anyway, we'll go through time, Saturday. So Saturday, it says we're going to erode this whole edge of the Arctic air across Texas. Okay, fine. Let's just say we agree with that. But it tries to do it here in Oklahoma. It kind of starts the process, but it runs out of daylight. Doesn't get very far, so it still ends up in northeast Oklahoma. It gets us into the mid-30s. And I believe we probably have full sun with this. Yeah, there's some high clouds right here. So we'll see. I don't buy that either with those high clouds around. But let's just take it for a grain of salt. It's 37. Let's see here. And then as we head into Saturday night into Sunday morning, we cool back down, of course, lack of sun, solar radiation. And then we get back to the morning hours, and now the model is going to try to warm us up. So that is what the model does during the midday Sunday into the afternoon. So it rebounds us back to 37 degrees with the overrunning, the cloudiness, all that kind of stuff. It still has us socked in the humidity levels here. Has us a little bit dry aloft. There's something here trying to come in at 500, but warm advection pattern still goes, still looks good. Anyway, now it's warmed our dew point to 30. So remember our dew point earlier was like into the teens. So that's another thing, and that's another reason why the model's kind of error with that. So watch, I'll just play this through. So for example, our current Arctic air mass, you see this little line here for dew points that are into the negative numbers. These are all positive numbers. This is really the true layer of that deep Arctic air. So watch how this erodes with time. Just see how the pattern, see how just kind of eventually just kind of on the edges, it's a struggle. You get a reinforcing shot and the edges kind of moderate, and then eventually then it just almost kind of just goes away, just gone. Here's another reinforcing shot, Arctic air that comes in, moves through, and then it kind of starts to just erode. And then here comes a big return of moisture right here toward the end. So this is how the GFS handles the Arctic air on Saturday and Friday. So at Friday, let's see, where are we? Let's go to Friday. Friday afternoon, dew point of 4. Very dry, obviously. As we head into Saturday, it rebounds it to 15. And then as we head into Sunday morning, it's at 18. And then because it has this huge influx of moisture, this warm air advection, it's going to try to just pretend this isn't Arctic air, that it's a Pacific air mass, and it's just going to take over. So that is where this model is going to error. And that's why there's no way we'll be able to hit a dew point of 44 with cloudy skies and no solar insolation and no mixing. So now with that, and then because this model doesn't handle the lowest 100 meters of the atmosphere very well. So another reason why you have to pick your model that you want based off of the condition that you're talking about. Anyway, so that was interesting. I just want to look at the GFS just to see what it did overall with the pattern. Just to see if it was kind of in line with what the other ones had suggested. Now, if I look at the Canadian model that just came out, looking at the dew point values, it has our dew point values still into the single digits on Sunday. But it has all that moisture down here and not into Texas. So that's a big difference. It may be a little late bringing that moisture in. And that's probably, I think it's the only one I'll be able to get that far out. Let me see what the icon does. So the icon, yeah, through Monday, also keeps our dew points way lower on the weekend of 7. So there's two models that say our dew points are in the single digits, whereas the GFS says, oh no, we're going to bring into the 40s. Now obviously, if you're trying to make a forecast, that makes that very difficult. Let me look at the moisture profile, like we did earlier at 850. All right. So it's hilarious. Okay, so this is that 850 millibar moisture layer coming in there Sunday afternoon on the icon model. All right, so the only difference between this and the GFS was that the GFS decided to warm up our dew points by like 30 degrees from, was it, the low teens to low 40s, whereas the icon model kept us in the single digits, and so did the Canadian. So let me, 168. Let's go to the Canadian. So by the way, if you're still hanging with me, all we're doing is just live forecasting off the newest data that came in for next Sunday, just to see what potentially is on the table. All right, so there's the 850 for the Canadian. It's a little behind, but otherwise it's still got the same typical pattern. I'll pick a sounding here in southern Oklahoma. So on the Canadian, we have much more moisture aloft to work with. We have that warm nose, all right? Still got your warm advection profile. And we have that saturation level that's from 850 millibars to like 750. So there's our moisture level. Now, this particular sounding profile, the model type like sleet. Anyway, it has a temperature of 23 and a dew point of 7. 23 and 7 for Sunday afternoon. What in the world? Is it really that different? Sure is. Okay. Let me do this. All right. So there's the new Canadian. That's the new GFS. And that's the new icon. 28. And the GFS, or the Canadian's 24. Icon's 28. And just so you know, the icon had a better grasp on the Arctic air the last time around. It got a little crazy with some of the coldest numbers because it had clear skies at the time. That didn't happen, so we're not going to bottom out as much as we could have, but it was at least had the right idea, and it was the first one to do so. So it does hold a little weight to these air masses. Anyway, so that's 28 and 24. Let's see what the dew point looks like. 17 and 3. All right. So there you go. So with all that in mind, these two models are suggesting the ice storm is on the table. The American model suggests it would be if it didn't erode the Arctic air, which is what it's currently doing. And the European hasn't come in yet. It won't come in until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it should lean very closely with the Canadian model. So that's the only difference there. All right, so that's just an example, kind of what I look at. I look at a lot of stuff, but that's what we looked at tonight, just to kind of give you the story as to why I'm concerned that might be an outcome for our Sunday. And you get to learn a little bit about forecasting of the weather, because I'm sure, most of the time when you tune in to the news at 10 o'clock and they got 3 minutes to tell you that the temperature is, what the winds are, if it's cloudy outside, and what are the winds and the clouds going to be tomorrow, and is it going to rain, yes or no, right? And that's it, and then your 3 minutes is up. So you never get really to get a chance to talk about the science. You never really get to describe, the process of your forecast and how, why, what, that kind of deal. So just not a platform for that. And whereas the social media allow that to happen. So that's kind of neat. So that's why I started doing all this way back 2010 on Facebook, and in 2014 on the video stuff, doing live broadcast. Hey, Jody, Hope wants to see Miss Penelope. Nobody wants to see Larry. Hey, bring them both. Maybe they'll be still for 5 seconds. Now here's the deal. They have not been groomed in a while, and they are a hot mess. Larry's like a big thing of crazy hair, and then they eat each other's face because they like to wrestle, and so they're always licking each other, and so they're a hot mess. Everybody. Ah, no, it's a good boy. So this is Larry. All right, and this is Penelope. Hi. Hi, buddy. So he doesn't like it when we're sharing. She doesn't mind, though. So anyway, they're both about 3 pounds, supposedly. I don't believe she's 3, but the scale said she was 3. Which means you must be like 3.5. He's putting on some winter size. We call him Tank. All right, so already getting restless. What's funny is you can hold him all day long if he's by himself. She just wants 5 seconds, then she's done. She's got ADD. All right. So that's Penelope. And this is Larry, the original. See, buddy, she's gone. Now it's just you and me. All right. So anyway, so there you go. There's Larry and Penelope. Leslie. Yeah, he's not a fan of him sharing that with Penelope. So it's kind of funny. But hey, it's cute having those two little turds, as we call them. They're so cute and adorable. And then we like to watch them wrestle and play. That's the fun part, which is good because Larry's always wanted to play, and mostly it's big dogs, right? And he thinks he can play with these big dogs, and the big dogs don't understand that he's so fragile. If they were to like just paw at him, he'd probably die. So he doesn't understand. So it's always frustrating because all he wants to do is play. And anyway, so when we got Penelope, that made him happy. So now he's got a play buddy. Anyway, so that's Larry and Penelope. I haven't seen them in a while. There you go. Every now and then they make their debut again. Okay, well, that's it for me. Like I said, we'll be doing some lives off and on this week. So I appreciate you guys' support, either on the Facebook stars, the YouTube, whatever they call theirs. I forget. They call it something. But anyways, gifts, and then you can do the Facebook fan subscriptions, Patreon. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Whether AaronTuttleWeather.com, you can find out how you can support me if you'd like to do so. Buy me a cup of coffee for all my time. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have a great night. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you later.